I know what you're thinking. I do. You're thinking to yourself, Russ, you coward. You should have done the show this morning. Who told you? You five-headed, strong-mustached son of a bitch. Who told you could do an afternoon show? I thought the whole point was to go to 10 a.m. Huh? What happened to you, Russ? Huh? What's going on with you, Russ? Huh? I hear you. Am I thrilled that we're doing the show in the afternoon instead of the morning today? No, I'm not. But we're doing the show in the afternoon. And maybe that's a good thing. It gave me a little bit more time to collect myself, to collect my composure, to get my composure together, to start thinking about what the hell did we watch last night out in Detroit, the Motor City. Well, I'll tell you what, the Flyers had a flat tire. They might have actually had 3 flat tires. Maybe they had all 4. Maybe somebody slashed all their tires. Because make no mistake about it, the effort from your team, your town, your Philadelphia Flyers on Thursday night absolutely sucked. And it is a game they had absolutely no business, virtually no showing for. They gave up multiple power play goals. They have a moment in this game. Larkin looked like an absolute man possessed. The Flyers had no one to match him. Matvei Michkov takes a stupid penalty early in the game. Gives an early power play to Detroit. But you know what? We could go into each and every little granular detail about what happened. Or we could burn the tape. And I think that for better or worse, that's really the Flyers' only recourse right now is to burn the tape from last night's game. It was horrific. There's no getting around it. Like if there's anybody out there right now who's like, well, you know, Porter Martone scored his second goal of his NHL career and he did it in front of all of his Michigan State teammates. I'm not here for that energy today. Don't you dare. Don't you freaking dare. Today is not the day. The Flyers made their playoff hopes, their playoff dreams, their playoff quest. They made it more difficult than it needs to be. I made the case the other day on Snow the Goalie Radio that I thought the game against Detroit felt like probably the 4th or 5th time in the last 2 weeks that we've said it's the most important game of the season. But I really, truly did believe it was the most important game of the season because it was the only one remaining against a team that you're actively competing for a playoff spot against. And I get it. Detroit plays in the Atlantic and you play in the Metropolitan Division. And theoretically, heads up, you're not competing for that 3rd spot in the Metropolitan Division, which is a better, more enticing place to be going into the playoffs, right? Playing Pittsburgh in the first round beats the alternative. But the point still remains that Columbus is behind you. The Islanders are behind you. They're both still in striking distance. And even after last night, they both remain in striking distance. And there's a non-zero chance that a Detroit, that an Ottawa could fall out of that second wildcard spot. And then you have a Metropolitan Division team claiming that second wildcard spot. And if things were to not go totally according to plan for the Flyers, well, at least they would have that. At least they would have the ability to kind of sit back and say, all right, this kind of sucks, and it's not the desired result and the desired position in the playoffs, but at least we know there's something still waiting there for us. And unfortunately, because the Flyers did what they did in losing 6-3, not 2-1, not 4-3, 6-3, totally falling apart. Entering that second period with a chance to get things back on the right track. And there's a bullshit penalty called against Martone. You get 2 guys in the box, and then it's 4-on-4. Detroit's going to have a short power play, and instead, Flyers pick up another penalty where Tippett decides to throw his ass into the face of the goalie, Gibson, who then eventually leaves the game altogether. You end up conceding a goal on a 5-on-3. You concede a goal on a power play, and it felt like everything was getting away from them. It felt like they were on an absolute slippery slope, and they never recovered. And I got to tell you, it's a very frustrating game. Now, I am not here to be doom and gloom today. I'm not. I know it feels very doom, and it feels very gloom, but I'm not here to be doom and gloom because I do still think that this team has the ability, has the talent to be able to still make a playoff run. I am not giving up on the Philadelphia Flyers with 3 games remaining in the regular season. But the game against Winnipeg that I would have otherwise considered not that important, and really in theory it shouldn't be that important, I would have ruled that one out. I wouldn't have cared that much. When I was thinking about, what needs to be the goalie rotation here over the last 4 games, I thought you start Vladar on Thursday. I thought Rick Tocchet made the smart decision by starting Vladar. And I was like, you know what? I know you have to play Ersson on one of the back-to-back nights, but like theoretically, you could have played Ersson on Sunday because that game doesn't matter that much. It's a West Coast game, right? It's a Western Conference game. It doesn't have nearly the same playoff ramifications. You maybe play Ersson on Sunday if you know that you can clinch this thing on Monday night. And instead, you had to pull Vladar, who wasn't particularly bad. I wouldn't lay this at the feet of Dan Vladar on Thursday night. But the team just did not play well in front of him. Special teams were not special at all. Special teams needed like special attention, needed special help. If I could, I would probably encourage the Philadelphia Flyers to, consider getting some additional help for their players. I don't know what that's going to look like, but they need something. I don't know what the hell they could do with this power play. This power play is absolutely god-awful in every way. Rocky Thompson somewhere smiles watching film of this atrocious, and I mean absolutely atrocious power play. So all this happens. Flyers game last night. Disaster class. And I know I'm kind of all over the place, and it's going to probably be like that for the rest of the episode because I don't have a very good, concise way to express the frustration that I feel today. They should have gotten that game done. We've been talking for the better part of a week now, week and a half. All right, you lost to Detroit at home. At least you have that game where you can make up the ground that you lost by losing at Xfinity Mobile Arena. You're going to get to play them in their own home arena. Go steal the 2 points on the road, get them back, and it's like it never even happened. And they didn't. They looked like a team that had run out of gas last night. And yeah, there were moments in this game where it felt like they had a little bit of jump. And Porter Martone does score his second goal. Where is he? He's net front. What's he doing? Scoring a goal in a dirty area. Good on him. But this was another one of those games where when you look at the final stat line, you go, all right, who do we need to have contribute in order for this team to reach its ceiling? Who do I keep coming back to? I talk about Matvei Michkov, no points on the night. I talk about a guy that you may or may not have heard of. I believe his name is Travis Konechny. He had an assist on the night. I need Travis Konechny to probably find the back of the net a few times here between now and the end of the regular season. So Martone has 2 points on the night, has a goal and assist. Dvorak scores a goal. Luke Glendening scores a goal. A guy that people have wanted to see out of the lineup potentially. He scores a goal for you. Barkey gets an assist. Drysdale gets an assist. Couturier has an assist. Zegras has an assist. But this was a totally haphazard game. And it almost looked like the Flyers, once that first intermission ended, it looked like this team just didn't have it. They did not. And when they gave up that 5-on-3, and they gave up that goal, and they gave up a corresponding goal on the power play, it felt like this thing was dead. And the worst part for the Flyers was like they even had their own 5-on-3 opportunity, couldn't do anything. They had their own power play opportunity, couldn't do anything. If this team is going to try over these next 3 games to pick up 6 total points that are available and guarantee themselves a playoff spot, that power play cannot be as bad as it was on Thursday night. It can't be. That won't work. In a first-round playoff series against Pittsburgh, could you potentially get by Pittsburgh even with a dysfunctional power play? Yeah, probably. Good chance. Can you even have a remotely competitive second-round series with a power play like this? No. Not at all. No chance. No chance in hell. And I'll take a look at the standings here real quick as well, because I think it's important, and we'll get out to the comments as well. But this entire playoff picture is coming into even better focus, and it's gotten chaotic behind you. And this is the thing that I kind of feared all along with the loss to Columbus in regulation, the first loss to Detroit in regulation, then of course the loss to Washington in regulation. I kept raising concerns about what the hell was going to happen behind them. Yes, you want to look in front of you and jump those teams, but you cannot lose sight of the ones that are trying to take your spot. And now they are the hunted and no longer the hunter. But here is where things are as of Friday, April 10th. Flyers are still hanging on to that third spot in the Metropolitan Division with 92 points. At best now, 3 wins over their last 3 games, the Flyers would finish at 98 points. Level with the Pittsburgh Penguins, or at least where the Penguins are now. Penguins aren't going to go 0-3-0. So you're looking at that third Metropolitan Division spot, right? And then you take a look at New York, and you take a look at Columbus. Columbus lost last night. Good. Great. They're sitting on 90 points, so they're 2 points behind you. But take a goosey gander at those Islanders. The ones who hired Pete DeBoer, the ones who I said probably are in line to get a new coach bump, who had a 4-day mini training camp to get used to this coach before they took the ice for him. Well, now, what was once a 3-6-0 over their last 10 games train wreck of a team, well, now they're 4-6-0 over the last 10 games because they picked up a win last night. Now they're sitting at 91 points with the same 79 games played. And we can look at this if you want, and you certainly are more than welcome to. But the scary part of this is the Islanders are so much in striking distance, you lose the tiebreaker, right? So now the Flyers really do have to keep an eye on what's happening with Columbus and what's happening with the Islanders. But like, say the Flyers stumble, right? Say that Monday game against Carolina doesn't go well. You lose in regulation. The Islanders just have to win their last 3, and they steal that spot. That's what you've done by losing games twice to Detroit, once to Washington, once to Columbus, all in regulation. If they miss the playoffs now, this Flyers team that went on this magical run, if they blow this, it's because those games where they desperately needed wins, preferably in regulation, they got 0 out of 8 potential points. And it was late in this season. And you give them credit because there have been games that they had no business winning, like Dallas. No one thought they were going to beat Dallas, and they did. And maybe they'll beat Carolina. Carolina really doesn't have a whole hell of a lot to play for, so maybe they'll have a great game on Monday. But now all of a sudden, this Winnipeg game that didn't seem like it mattered as much, now that's a must-win game. They're all must-win. If you want to lock in your playoff spot, you got to go 3-0-0. You've now blown your opportunity to have a speed bump. You've now blown the opportunity to watch this thing kind of fall apart a little bit. Because I will also note, take a look at the Metropolitan teams there. The Red Wings, 3 points out of a playoff spot, out of that wild card spot. The Flyers could have effectively ended their season. If Detroit loses last night and they're sitting on 89 points, they'd be 5 points back of Ottawa, and they would have been a full 5 points back of the Flyers. They would have had 89. The Flyers would have had 94. And so even if the Flyers would have had to get into this weird little wild card thing, the Flyers and the Senators would have both had the same amount of points. But again, Flyers would lose a tiebreaker because of regulation wins. So again, this all looks fine. And there will be people, Sanfilippo, who will tell you that losing against Detroit is totally fine. It's not as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. But this picture necessitates a 3-0-0 record over your final 3 games of the season. 2-0-1 gets you to 97 points. 97. All it would take for the Islanders, right, is to go 3-0-0. You go 2-0-1, the Islanders go 3-0-0, you lose that spot. That's where the tiebreaker comes back to bite you in the ass. You go 2-1-0, decent enough chance the Islanders jump you. This is huge. I mean, this is as critical of a 3-game stretch as it gets. The real hope is, honestly, that they haven't peaked already. All right, I'm going to go out to the comments. Let's see where people are at today. I saw Twitter was on fire today in a way that I kind of expected it to. Chris Reed says, let's be real, Philly sports have been all downhill since the ceasefire was announced. Oh, man. Also says if Flyers can't beat the Jets, then they don't deserve to be in the playoffs. Playoffs? Greg Bondarenko's here. Says, good afternoon, all. Finally happy to eat meat on Fridays. Yeah, I had a chicken nugget that I forgot to put in one of the kids' lunches today. There was one extra one left. I downed it, and then I realized I'd kind of made this like thing in my head where I was like, I'm going to see how many more weeks I can go without having Friday or having meat on a Friday beyond Lent. I was like kind of committed to it, not seriously, but I was kind of thinking like I could do no meat on Fridays. I could be totally fine. And I was like, I was committed to it. And then as I swallowed the chicken nugget, I went, oh shit, I meant to not eat meat for on. So the streak is already broken. Now, could I start it again next week? Maybe I could. Maybe I'll do it. How many hours would it take? Right? I've talked about doing like a 72-hour fast. Let's see. How many hours would it take me from now until next Friday? We're not doing that. We're not doing that. No way. No, thank you. Ford is here. Ford still says the Flyers would miss the playoffs. Flyers, that is. Oh. Well, I'm glad Ford's here. Bondarenko asks, are we back to free-for-all Fridays? I don't know. What are free-for-all Fridays? Are we like, we throwing down the gloves? What are we doing? Ford also says, Sixers, what a joke, like genuinely an all-time joke. Unbelievable. We're going to talk about that. And Fried thinks that it might be Embiid's last game. He's already played his last game. We'll talk about that as well. Read to Ford in all caps, go to sleep, Philadelphia, and let me hear you snore. Kind of felt like last night was a little bit of that. Doug Grinch. I don't know if Doug Grinch has been here before. Doug Grinch, thanks for being here. Like the video, share the video, subscribe. Says it's disappointing seeing or how they seem to play without any discipline. Every sloppy and dumb penalty they took, another Flyer was stepping up to say, watch me outdo you. It felt like that. It just felt like an absolute slippery slope. Bad penalty begets bad penalty begets bad penalty. And you got to give Detroit credit. They absolutely killed the Flyers on special teams. And I would also say that to some extent, you can make the argument that Detroit beat you to more 50-50 pucks. I would argue that in the second period especially, it felt like 18 of the 20 minutes, it felt like Detroit was on a power play. The Flyers just didn't look right. Amadeo says Vladar wasn't good. I don't think this was a Vladar thing. Peanut Energy says Vladar looked tired. Defense looked tired as well. I think this fell a lot more on blown coverages. And then the pulling of the goalie was really just a momentum thing. Jason Franklin says a 19-year-old showed up. Where were the vets? Some guys just can't get it done. This is this generation's pattern. Got to turn some of this roster over, still hoping for a breakthrough. Well, it is a shame that with how well Tippett has been playing, he doesn't break through. And he takes a really bad penalty. I mean, the penalty where he goes ass first into Gibson, he turns, he's taking all his momentum through, and he just bowls over Gibson. And that leads to, I think that was when it led to the 5-on-3. That's an inexcusable penalty. You have to know better. And especially given where the momentum of the game felt like it was, given the fact that you knew you were going to very soon be going on the penalty kill, you can't commit that penalty. He doesn't get it done. Konechny, I don't know. I don't know. You've got to figure out a way to manufacture a goal. Have to. Hasn't happened. Let's see. Amadeo says, there's still a chance they can clinch a playoff spot on Sunday. Everything has to go right, but there's a chance. I mean, let me just take a look at the Islanders' schedule really quick. They play on Saturday and Sunday. They play at home. Saturday against the Senators, and then home Sunday against the Canadiens. So obviously we root against the Islanders in both games. We root for two Atlantic Division teams. You root for the Sens, you root for the Canadiens. It's a 6 o'clock game. The Flyers game against Winnipeg is a West Coast game. So that one drops the puck on Sunday at... Oh, no, sorry, it's on Saturday. No. Is it really? Really? Okay. The Flyers play on Saturday. Why did I think it was on Sunday? All right, so we'll have a little bit of an idea tomorrow where the Islanders stand up going into Sunday. and hopefully the Flyers will get the job done against the Jets. Let's take a look real quick at the Blue Jackets' schedule as well. They play Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, they are in Montreal, and then Sunday, they're home against the Bruins. Very interesting. You need a lot to go right. Like, I think you need both of those teams to lose all of those games. So you need the Islanders to lose 2. You need Columbus to lose 2. And you need to win in regulation, I think, in order to clinch by Sunday. Let's see. Peanut says, great interview with Jiricek. Russ fell in love the moment he started talking soccer. I did. Jiricek seems like a good dude. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy him. I really do. I hope that Jiricek gets a shot. I don't think it'll be this year, clearly. You're not going to make a change in the defensive core with 3 games to go. But I do think he's going to be on this team next year, and I hope that the experience he's getting with the Phantoms, an off-season with this team, with this coaching staff, with this conditioning crew and strength coaches and all that, hopefully Jiricek comes in like ready to make an impact next year. But the one cool thing, and I would encourage everybody to go check out the interview that we did with him on Stow the Goalie Wednesday night at Chickies and Pete's in Drexel Hill, is I asked him about, did you think you were going to end up going to Philly in the draft the year that he was taken? Because he was on the board, and given where the Flyers were and given what their needs were, it was totally conceivable that Jiricek could have ended up with the Flyers. And he said that he went into that night expecting to be the Flyers pick. And instead the Flyers took Gauthier, and then Columbus took Jiricek. And so he was surprised, but then he did admit that when this trade went down and he ended up getting sent to Philly, he was kind of like, yeah, I felt like I was always meant to be in Philly. So I thought that was pretty cool. Go check out the interview. It was a lot of fun. Let's see. John S. Kennedy, 117, over on YouTube, says, special teams were a different kind of special. I still like our chances to get in simply because the Canes have nothing to play for, and the Habs probably won't either. Jets should be beatable too. All of that is true. We got to see how this team bounces back. They've been good at bouncing back after losses, so I don't think this needs to compound. I don't think this needs to like snowball into like some terrible, choke job at the end of the season. I said the other day, and I remain in this boat, I always fear the new coach jump, the new coach bump. And so the Islanders to me have been the scariest team chasing you. Let me see. Raymond Sepper says, Flyers have to treat every game as a playoff elimination game from here on out. And I think they will. I fully expect them to. Peanut Energy says, Islanders are the only team I'm worried about. Columbus is cooked. They have a tough schedule. Could be fair. I mean, just based on points, if somebody's going to chase it down, it's the Islanders. The Blue Jackets will only matter if like the Senators and or Red Wings collapse, and then you're between the Flyers and the Blue Jackets for the second wild card spot. Otherwise, I think you probably do focus most of your vitriol and your voodoo dolls and all that stuff on the Islanders. All right. I don't know if Ford was he talking to me or somebody else? Said, you say blow, but dude, they weren't even in the running weeks ago, and the show was about purgatory. They were in purgatory, and then they went on a heater, and so changes the conversation. Let's see. Peanut thinks if anything, Briere will see this team as close and go after a big name in a trade this offseason. I don't know what that's going to look like. I really do think that there's a non-zero chance that you see real smoke around Austin Matthews. And I do kind of wonder if there is a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit of smoke around Brady Tkachuk. But I think Austin Matthews, I'm not saying he gets dealt this offseason, but I think it really starts to feel like a much more real proposition. I still don't think the Flyers should make that move, but I wouldn't be surprised if his name comes up. Havokin over on YouTube has his fingers crossed, but the last couple of seasons, we've seen this before. They get to the final game and take the night off, but whatever happens, it was still an okay season for the team they have. Let's just say they were to lose out. They lose their final 4 games after collecting the 3rd spot in the Metropolitan Division. I will have a hard time looking at this thing as rosy and rainbows and smiles. I think a lot of it comes down to how do they lose. Like if they somehow fall out of a playoff spot, which I still think they're going to make it in, but it's going to be really uncomfortable and really tight. If they were to miss the playoffs, and they are picking in purgatory 14-15, so much of them missing the playoffs, it'll come down to how that happened. If Martone is scoring goals, if Barkey and Bump are contributing in a meaningful way, if Michkov contributes in a meaningful way, and you're just not getting it done, there's defensive lapses, maybe I can look at it as a positive. But I'm not prepared to be in that spot yet. I actually blame Sam Filippo because on Wednesday we were having a very positive show, and then he started some bullshit about Trevor Zegras. And, whoa, there are people who think that Trevor Zegras is a 1C. Did you read Anthony DeMarco's piece? No, I didn't, and I'm not going to. Oh, there are people that seem to think that the Flyers are happy with the centers they have. Well, then those people are fucking dumb and shouldn't have a job. I mean, make no mistake about it. If there's truth to that, right? If Danny Briere woke up this morning, probably still mad about the Red Wings loss. If Danny Briere woke up this morning and said, you know what? Zegras, Dvorak, Cates, and Couturier, Glendening, that's good enough for next year. Well, then Danny's got to activate the brain, activate the gray matter in his head. That ain't gonna work next year. No. Because if you're fine with those centers, then that means you're probably fine with those wings. And if you're fine with those wings, then that means the only thing that's going to change is backup goalie and defensive core. And if that's what you're going to do, that ain't good enough. You have to do something this offseason to make this team actually better because you chose to not go the route of getting the pick and getting the better player in the draft. So now you got to double down. Well, now you do have to actually add to this team. I don't believe that Briere wakes up this morning and says, oh, yeah, these centers are good enough for next year, too. I don't see it. Jason says, Detroit speed showed how slow the Flyers are. Need more speed in the lineup. Well, there's some truth to that. But in the playoffs, sometimes speed kills and sometimes speed gets neutralized. So I don't think that needs to be a gigantic takeaway, and I don't think you remake your entire lineup because of it. Amadeo, coming back to the scenario, says Isles need to lose both in regulation. Columbus has to lose one in regulation, and they can only get 1 point in the other in order for the Flyers to clinch. But I think that's also predicated on the Fly guys winning. Let's see. Motu_CTR says, too bad. I was looking forward to watching Sid and Gino bitch slap Philly in the playoffs again. Oh, that's cute. We have a Penguins fan here? That's so sweet. Hey, Pittsburgh fan. How you doing? Yeah. I mean, you won a bunch of cups, so good on you. Can't fault you there. But I don't think there's like a bitch slapping coming. Yeah, I think that Sidney and Evgeny Malkin, wonderful players, some of the all-time greats. They're not bitch slapping anybody. They're going to get curb stomped at some point, pretty early in the playoffs. I'll tell you what, though, if they go on a run, if Sidney and Malkin and Letang lead Pittsburgh 2-8, it'd be hilarious. All right, play this one out. There's no chance this happens. If Pittsburgh meets if Pittsburgh meets Edmonton in the Stanley Cup final, just play this one out for a second. Edmonton, Pittsburgh, they go head-to-head. They have a showdown in the Stanley Cup final. And you have to watch Stuart. That might be the one time in my life where I would actively root for Pittsburgh. Because if I got to watch Edmonton make another Stanley Cup final and lose the Stanley Cup final to Stuart Skinner, who they traded to Pittsburgh for not being a good enough goalie, I think I'd fucking lose it. I think it would be the funniest thing ever. So this is the only scenario where I will root for the Penguins. Penguins versus Oilers in the Stanley Cup final. Stuart Skinner is like the series MVP. That would be hilarious. Hysterical. We'd all laugh. I think even in our heart of hearts, I think even in your heart of hearts, no matter what kind of fan you are, but probably a Flyers fan, you would probably laugh at the entire country of Canada if that happened. All right. Timmy Flyers guy says if Konechny is tired of missing the playoffs, he should step up. Dude was invisible. Gotta put the biscuit in the basket. Hasn't done it. Let's see. Reed DeFort says Canada's favorite player playing for the most overrated franchise with insane fans. Yeah, he's on the move. That was about Austin Matthews. I do. I think that Matthews is gonna move at some point. All right. Okay. That's where we're at with the Flyers from last night. But we did get a little bit. I mean, if you want to go with a little bit of good news, although I'm not really sure how to take this news, I didn't look at this as the massive coup that it seemed like Flyers Twitter did. But there is a report going around that the guy the Flyers are really high on could potentially be coming over sooner than expected. Because there was a report put out today by Hockey News Hub. Now, Hockey News Hub sometimes is right, sometimes is wrong. Often likes to say that they're going to be leaving Twitter for good and then come right back. But this is the report that was put out earlier today by Hockey News Hub. And it felt like it sort of came out of nowhere, which makes me think that it is out of nowhere. It might not be true, but then again, some of the Russian players have multiple people representing them. They have U.S. representation and they have Russian representation. But this is the tweet from earlier. Reports are out saying Flyers prospect goaltender Yegor Zavragin will sign his entry-level contract with the Philadelphia Flyers. Still has a year left on his current contract. His agency has denied the reports, trying to confirm this is Russia. You never know. And then in a follow-up tweet that came, I think an hour later, the more I talk with sources, sounding like this may be real, folks. There's a problem here, right? Everybody's excited because Zavragin, last year especially, was in the midst of a really, really great season in the KHL. But I do have to kind of point out, and I'm not keeping up on every Yegor Zavragin start, right? I'm not keeping up on every Yegor Zavragin appearance. He hasn't been getting a starter's workload this year. And he was at one point sent down to the VHL, which is not the top league. And when he was playing in the KHL this year, I'll give you some stats on him. He has 12 wins. Is that 12 wins or is that 12 appearances? No, 12 games. 12 games played, 263 goals against average, a 919 save percentage. When he went down to the VHL, he posted better numbers, a 1.44 goals against average and a 9.49 save percentage. Now, this is not to say that he's not good enough to play in the KHL. My real trepidation here is if he signs the ELC and it comes over, are they looking at this as we want Yegor Zavragin in the AHL next year as part of the tandem with Carson Bjarnason, and they're just going to rock and roll with two young dudes? And maybe they will. I don't know. It makes me a little bit worried, I guess, rolling with two young guys in the AHL, not having a veteran netminder doesn't seem like the greatest idea. Maybe that is the way that they'll go. They could sign him to his ELC and then loan him back to the KHL. I don't know why they would go through the effort of signing him to his ELC if that's the case, but I guess in theory they could. I don't want them to rush the kid's development. He's 22. He's 20. He's not even 22. He's 20. If it were me, the only reason you sign him to the ELC is if you're worried that he's not going to come over at some point. That's it. At that point, I guess you sign him. Or if he's communicated to you that he's thinking about re-upping with his KHL team for a multi-year deal and you're not going to be able to get him to buy himself out of it, all right, then maybe. On one hand, it feels like the Flyers are trying to take as many swings on things as they can. They've been rumored to be interested in Vitaly Pinchuk, the Russian center, who I think was third in the KHL in goals this season, although it seems like a lot of indications are that he's considering West Coast teams more. But maybe this is them just trying to drum up additional interest in things. Maybe this is them trying to signal that they're ready to go all in and push all the chips in on their young prospects, their young players, and really get people excited about the future of the team. It could be that. I don't know. But I didn't jump for joy when Amadeo sent me the tweet of that this morning. I was like, all right, well, maybe he'll come over, maybe he won't, but I'm not getting way too high on it. And there was another guy, obviously, who signed his ELC, and this actually aligns with Phightin. Jack Berglund signed his ELC, and it seems like they're going to give him an opportunity to make the Flyers next year, and if they don't, they might lend him or loan him back to the Swedish league for next year. But Phightin says, with the Flyers signing Berglund to his entry contract, who is finishing the season in Lehigh Valley for, I think, 5 games, do you think the Flyers give him a long look next preseason? I do. So the way that this ELC is set is he will finish out the season with the Phantoms, those 5 games or whatever. I can't remember if they're not in the playoffs. I can't remember if they have enough points or enough potential points to qualify or not, but you're looking at 5 games or so left in the AHL season for the Phantoms. He'll play there, and then he'll prepare for an NHL training camp. You would assume that he'd be at dev camp, and then you would think that he would be at training camp. I think that they'll give him every opportunity to make the team. And if it doesn't work out, well, then they can make a determination. They can say, Jack, the AHL is your best path. You'll get to go back and forth between the AHL and NHL as injuries happen, and maybe they go that way. Or maybe they look at Berglund and they go, try to make the team out of camp. If you don't, we send you back to Sweden, and then we see you again in 2027, 2028. Maybe that's possible. I don't know. But again, I'm not going over the top with the Jack Berglund hype. It's funny because before the tournament where he was the captain of the Swedish team, not a lot of people had watched a lot of Jack Berglund, and not a lot of people were very high on Jack Berglund. And then he captains Sweden. They have a great tournament, and then people are talking about him as if he's I don't recommend you go onto Flyers Facebook groups all the time, but if you do, the response to Berglund's signing was, "Oh my God, they have their future 1C. I can't believe it's happening." I'm like, yo, let's all just take a deep breath and see what the kid looks like when he plays against North American opponents in the North American game before we start anointing him as a 2C or somehow a 1C. Everybody just calm down, okay? Everyone just take a deep breath. All right, so that's where we're at with the Flyers right now. We look to Saturday, we look to the Jets game, and we hope that the Islanders and the Blue Jackets fall flat on their face. We'll see. All right. By the way, in case you missed it, Cole Caulfield scored his 50th goal of the season for Montreal. The Flyers passed on him twice to Cam York. Okay. Let's go out to the real big news of yesterday, which is that Joel Embiid is donezo. Now, is he donezo for the entire season, for the playoffs? It kind of feels like that, but it depends on what the damage was. So it was reported that Joel Embiid has appendicitis, and he was going to go undergo surgery on Thursday afternoon in Houston. Now, there are a lot of questions and a lot of comments and a lot of concerns. One of them is just that people don't trust the Sixers medical staff. Now, there has been plenty of turnover in the Sixers medical staff over the past 5 or 6 years, and yet the jokes kind of write themselves. Now, one of the things that I saw floating around today is something from late February when Embiid was suffering from a strained oblique, and now people are going back saying, oh my God, did they miss that he had an appendix that was about to rupture? I don't remember which side of the body the oblique strain was on. I don't remember. I'm not saying that they missed it, right? Appendicitis can come on really fast. If somehow he's had appendicitis for the better part of a month and a half and no one caught it, well, that's a massive failure. Somebody's probably going to lose their job. But if this was really just a very quick onset of appendicitis, it is what it is. I know that there were people yesterday who were like, see, he can't stay healthy. This is something that's totally out of his control. There are levels to Joel Embiid's injuries, right? There are things where his body gives out on him, like a meniscus. Okay, it's a basketball thing. It happened on the basketball court. You can have a freak injury. Certainly have been freak injuries. Markelle Fultz's shoulder breaking his orbital bone. Then you have why the hell is this happening to the guy? Like Bell's palsy and now like appendicitis. And you just go, yo, this dude's body hates him. While you're in there fixing the appendix, maybe you want to look at the spleen too. Just an idea. Is there anything else that's non-essential for the functioning body of Joel Embiid? If so, maybe just take that out while you're in there doing the surgery. If you're going to open him up there, maybe like do a clean out of both knees again. Check the ankles, check the navicular bones. Maybe come up and check, does he have anything in the shoulders? Do you want to open up here around the orbitals again? Like, this poor guy. It sucks. I mean, what are we supposed to do? I've been kind of championing this idea that, hey, you have Maxey, Edgecombe, Paul George, Embiid, all going into the playoffs healthy. The matchups, I think, except for Boston, are all at least somewhat competitive. And now you lose Embiid. Now, there could be a silver lining, right? The one thing that really screws this team up is when they don't know if Embiid is going to be in the lineup or not, because it fundamentally changes how they play the game. So with Embiid out, you know that this is going to be Tyrese Maxey's show. Paul George has caught fire since coming back off the suspension, so you want to believe that maybe he's your number 2. And then VJ Edgecombe, now's your time to shine, young man. Like, this is your time to shine. Let PG be the number 2 guy on the team. That's totally fine. VJ, you're number 3. Everybody else, do your job. If you do, can you win a first-round series? Maybe. I don't know. It still depends on where the hell you finish. They've been battling with Toronto to stay out of the play-in. I'm going to take a look at it right now because I didn't look this morning. But, like, yes. Toronto's in 5th. Hawks are in 6th. Magic are in 7th. The Sixers have fallen to 8th. But it is a razor-thin margin. 2 games to play. They theoretically could jump the Magic. I don't think they can catch the Hawks now. I mean, they technically can. Who has the tiebreaker? So they're going to be in the play-in. Holy shit. Yeah, this is bad. Yeah, this is bad as what outcome is to get out. I'm not thinking this is not good. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. This is bad. It feels like this whole thing is falling apart. Just when it felt like the Sixers maybe were going to be able to do something. Go into a playoff game. Go into a playoff series and feel pretty good about the situation. That was it. All right, well, hey, I have good news. You want good news? I have good news. Pablo Torre is apparently investigating the Mike Vrabel, Diana Rossini situation. He tweeted out less than an hour ago, I'm making calls. Make of that what you will. Can we have a really brief conversation here? Because I brought this up on Wednesday's show, and it's bothering me. There's this report that apparently the images of Vrabel and Rossini were being sold off or offered up to different outlets, including TMZ. And TMZ couldn't decide if they thought it was like too salacious, if it was like a little bit too gossipy, which I didn't realize TMZ has those kind of standards, but okay, live your best life. And while they were deciding, Page 6 jumped in and said, yeah, we'll publish them. I gotta tell you, the fact that ESPN has not mentioned this at all, and if they have, I've missed it, but I don't think ESPN has really mentioned it. You could say, hey, it's not ESPN's job to talk about Diana Rossini, even though she's been featured on some of their shows before, even though she's technically employed not by ESPN, but rather by The Athletic. You could make that case, but it is still a story about an NFL insider and the head coach of a team embracing near a pool at a hotel that is viewed as one for romantic getaways, and no one seems to have any good answers about any of it. The fact that they have remained so unbelievably silent on it is wild. Not quite as wild or stupid as the idea of trading Jalen Hurts to the Raiders for the number 1 overall pick, which is going around WIP today, but it's up there. Oh yeah, see, I've started to get to my breaking point, I think, before I start saying mean things about the radio stations again. I've been trying to be a nice guy. Just try to be accepting and kind, and a little bit of like open heart, open mind, right? However, I'm reaching my boiling point. Hey, Kyle Neubeck, by the way, has an update on Joel Embiid. This happened 18 minutes ago. Here's the most recent update on Embiid from Kyle Neubeck over at PHLY Sixers. He says, Embiid was discharged from the hospital today following a successful appendectomy and is returning to Philadelphia. Embiid's surgical recovery will be managed by team physicians in consultation with his surgeon. A timeline for return to basketball activities has not been determined. The fact that he's out of the hospital the next day tells me that this was not likely a fully ruptured appendix where they have to make like the actual big incision, like old school. If you remember, there's a kid I went to school with. Was it Tim Lukens? Tim Lukens. Why do I remember that kid's name? Anyway, I went to school with a kid named, it was either Tim Luken or Tim Lukens. But that guy, I remember as a kid, at some point, he had his appendix out. He's the only kid I could remember ever having their appendix out. He showed up to school and he lifted up his shirt and he showed us this gigantic scar. I don't know whatever happened to him. I hope he's a decent human being and I didn't just give a shout out to like a horrible human being. But anyway, I remember that guy's name. So anyway, he like lifted up the shirt, showed us the scar. I have to imagine that Embiid didn't have that happen. Otherwise, I think he's probably still in the hospital, which means it's more likely he had like the small ones. Like my son had to get his appendix out a few years ago. And it's like they do an incision by the belly button. And I think if they really need to, they can do one over on the side, but they're like tiny little incisions. That doesn't mean that Embiid is going to be back tomorrow. Maybe it does mean, though, that if the Sixers win in the play-in and they have a first-round playoff series, maybe at some point there, or if they somehow win a playoff series, he can be back for the second round. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. I've got no clue. Would it be nice to have Joel Embiid for the playoffs? Sure would. I have no clue. So that's where we're at. Yeah. I like that. Oh, I feel like I should look this guy up. You know, Pimp Steaks, by the way. How you doing? Like the video, share the video, subscribe. Shout out to Tim Lukett's appendix. Hold on, let me see. Can I find him? Let me see if I can find him on Facebook really quick. I know I'm definitely not Facebook friends with him. Let's see. If this guy like somehow got arrested, like if it turns out that I have dedicated like 2 minutes of this show to a guy who's like a, in jail or something, that'd be pretty awful. All right, hold on. Let's see. One mutual friend. Is that the guy? No, that's not him. Okay. Huh. I'm gonna have to look this guy up and see if I can find him. I have a buddy of mine who pretty much knows everything about everyone we went to high school with, and even the most obscure people, he can track them down and find them. I don't know how he does it, but he just does. So we'll find out. Maybe on Monday we'll have an update. But if it does turn out, let's just say hypothetically, and we're not going to tie this guy. Let's just say hypothetically, the dude that I gave the shout out to for showing us his appendix scar when we were in, I think, middle school. You know, if it turns out that like he was a serial killer or something, I don't think we're going to do a follow up on this on Monday's show. Or like if he became like a petty theft guy, I don't think we're going to like give him a shout out on Monday. Like I don't see this like coming full circle. Now if he died or something, well then on Monday I'm going to have to show up and be like, yeah, that guy that I was talking about, he died. It's very sad. I don't know. So yeah, we'll come back to that. Anyway, last thing I wanted to get to. I have a theory, okay? I'm going to be honest with you because I'm always honest. I did not watch the Phillies-Giants series. I saw bits and pieces of it. I didn't sit down and intently watch the Phillies-Giants series. And this is my, once every few days reminder to go check out Phightin Words, also part of Joy Media. You can find it on YouTube, as well as your favorite podcast app. Anthony Sanfilippo had Ant Jr. on, while Big Bet Bob remains out of town, taking a much needed and deserved vacation. They did a deep dive on the Phillies today, so you can go check that out. But I was sitting around on Wednesday, and I had a conversation with Sanfilippo, and I posited a theory. Because what I have seen from watching games this year is still a pissy-looking Bryce Harper. And it does seem like there's something to pissy Bryce Harper. Like it's not just fabricating something to like drum up interest, because I could talk about the Flyers for 45 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour. I do the Sixers or the Eagles, or God forbid, like the Union, who have been atrocious. We do a whole show, not mention the Phillies. But I'm noticing this body language thing that is worrisome have a theory. I'm not 100% committed to the theory, but I have a theory. So over the last month or so, there has been this idea floated out there that Harper still wants an extension. And maybe it's his agent that's kind of throwing it out there, but there's still some kind of a sentiment out there that Bryce Harper still wants an extension while he's in the midst of a dreadful start to the season. Now, he did pick things up against San Francisco. And I think he said San Francisco is his favorite ballpark to hit in or whatever, right? But the Phillies got outscored 11-0 over the final 2 games of that series. It was not a good series. Harper's hitting .222 on the season. That's not good. Now, he has 7 hits in his last 20 at-bats, 3 runs scored, a home run, 4 RBI, 5 walks, 2 strikeouts. So it does feel like Harper at least has pulled the nose up on things a little bit, at least in that series against the Giants. However, here's my theory. I think Bryce Harper is wounded. I don't mean physically. I don't think that he's walking around with an appendix-sized slit in his side. I don't think that he is actually wounded. I think he's hurt in his heart. I am actually somewhat convinced, maybe that he doesn't loathe Kyle Schwarber, but I think that there's a part of Bryce Harper who has internalized a lot of stuff for the better part of a year, getting booed, the discourse around him, fans being upset with him, fans not openly revolting in the streets about why is Bryce Harper not getting an extension, he deserves it. Dave Dombrowski saying the not elite thing at the end of the season. Harper bringing it up around spring training when pitchers and catchers were reporting. And the blowback to that because it felt like a lot of people were like, Bryce, shut the hell up. Like, what are you doing? All the while, Kyle Schwarber has become this unbelievably lovable guy. Everybody loves Kyle Schwarber. Last season, Kyle Schwarber has an MVP level season. Everybody loves Kyle Schwarber. Playoff series against the Dodgers happens. No one hits particularly well, but Schwarber has a home run that helps the team. And so a little bit comes off of his shoulders. Schwarber also has the post-game availability after the Phillies get eliminated where his lip is quivering and he looks devastated. And everybody's like, holy shit, are they going to lose Schwarber this offseason? And when Schwarber came back, people were elated. There is a part of me that wonders, maybe it's not a jealousy, maybe it's not a loathing, but there is part of me that wonders, is Bryce Harper upset that it doesn't feel like it's all about Bryce Harper? Is there a part of him that expected a lot more love and adulation and expected the honeymoon period to never end, all the while a contemporary of his in Schwarber is getting a lot of that love, and by the way, got a massive contract this offseason and doesn't even play the field. He's a DH. Is there part of Harper that is upset? And is that what's affecting him and his apparent, I don't know, you could call it love for the game, but it certainly looks like he's not thrilled right now when he takes the field. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I'm not ready to say that that's 100% what's going on, but I do think that there aren't a lot of coincidences. And I tend to think that Harper's a little bit desperate for a little bit of positive interaction, a little bit of positive attention from the fan base. The best way he could do it, go on a tear. So the Phillies, they get shut out in back-to-back games, outscored 11-0 in the final 2 games of the series, but now they abandon ship, they leave the Bay, and they're home tonight. If Harper goes on a little bit of a tear against the Diamondbacks in this series, does the public sentiment around him change? Does he start to get that pep in his step? If he has a good series and people are, throwing babies in the air for Bryce Harper again, let's see if the body language changes. And if it doesn't, I'm going to be worried. I am. Because this thing doesn't work if Harper's not fully engaged. It doesn't work if he isn't locked in. All right. Let me see. Peanut Energy says, if people haven't lost their minds about the Phillies yet, wait until the Harper extension. I don't think he's getting one. I really don't. I think it's more likely he'd be traded than them give him an extension. I'd be shocked if he got one. Philghtin says, if Harper is upset, then he needs to start hitting the baseball and the fans will get back on his side. I totally agree. I think that's what this comes down to. All right, time to go. I think we hit everything I wanted to get to. Because we got to Zavragin, and Zavragin was kind of like a late addition to the show. So, yeah. This weekend is huge for the Fly Guys. They get pretty much all the focus in my mind. Big game against the Jets on Saturday. Elsewhere, multiple games going down for the Blue Jackets and for the Islanders. Hopefully, by the time we meet on Monday, we are talking about the Flyers locking in a playoff spot. Or being really damn close to locking in a playoff spot. And a game against Carolina on Monday, and a game against Montreal on Tuesday. And we're talking about, hey, Snow the Goalie Radio at Warrington, Chickies and Pete's next Wednesday. And isn't it going to be great to preview the playoff series against the Penguins? I hope that's where we end up in a few days. And if not, Monday's show is going to have a very different, very, very different vibe to it. So, everybody have an absolutely fantastic Friday. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll talk to all of you on Monday. Until then, this has been the Russ Joy Show. I've been Russ Joy, but you knew that already because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. Like the video, share the video, subscribe, ring the bell to get notified whenever we go live. You can find the show in your favorite podcast app like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts, and you can find short-form content. You can find clips of this show on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. Like those videos, share them with your friends, your family, ex-girlfriend. I don't care. It's good for the algorithm. Gets more people to see the show. All right. Everybody have a great Friday. Talk to all of you Monday here on the Russ Joy Show. Go Flyers. Bye now.